Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Pokemon Pocket video for you. This time we are coming at you with an Infernape deck profile. Our build is going to be 2 Chimchar, 2 Monferno, 2 Infernape EX, 2 Moltres EX, 2 Pokeball, 2 Pokemon Communication, 2 Rocky Helmet, 2 Professor's Research, 1 Cyrus, 1 Leaf, and finally 2 Dawn. So yeah, Infernape is another one of the more popular EX Pokemon from the latest Space Time Smackdown expansion. One of the big questions that I had, though, was, is the deck actually better than Charizard? And it's looking like the answer is probably no, based off of both tournament popularity and win rate. Not only that, but also I will say my own experience does kind of lead me to think that as well with playing the deck. That's not to say Infernape is bad, though. Infernape is not a bad card, but it does have some issues. Now, what Infernape does have going for it is its free retreat cost. While its attack does cause it to, detach all of its attached fire energy, its free retreat cost lets you easily go into the Moltres and start building up energy once again. The idea behind the Rocky Helmets is that we're putting them on Moltres as a way to get some chip damage in order to make sure that we can, in fact, KO with the Infernape attack. Yeah, so here our opponent's on a kind of odd Giratina deck. They started with Clefairy, which is a little bit peculiar to me, but yeah, I don't know. The thing about Infernape is that I don't think it's a terrible card by any means. Dealing 140 off of 2 fire is certainly a very interesting prospect, but if you're gonna go for a fire stage 2, it's like, and you're setting it up with Moltres, you might as well just use Charizard and guaranteed get the KO. 140 seems like it might be a sweet spot, right, for a number. Weavile EX is 140 HP, of course. Darkrai EX is 140 HP. Darkrai EX, of course, being extremely popular in the current meta. So that might seem like it's good enough, but for one, there's still a lot of things that you can't KO on 140. And for two, the other thing about that is that a lot of Darkrai decks are on 2 Giant Cape, and a lot of decks will even wait until they have a Giant Cape before they start setting up their Darkrai. So it's actually a lot harder to one-shot a Darkrai with Infernape's Flare Blitz than it might seem like it is, right? Now, the idea behind 2 Dawn in particular in this deck is that if we have Dawn in our hand, we can actually go straight from one Infernape setup to another. Infernape, of course, detaches all fire energy attached to it, but if you have a fire energy on, say, your Moltres to the bench, which you typically expect to, you can use Dawn to move that energy to the Infernape from the Moltres, and then attach your energy from turn to the Infernape. That way you can ideally one-shot 2 Pokemon in a row, and ideally that's enough to win the game, but again, it's really just my experience that there is a good amount of the time where that's not enough to get you there. And we're actually kind of encountering the other problem with this strategy, which is one that any Stage 2 focus deck has, which is, well, you got to draw both the Monferno and the Infernape in order to really start popping off. And unfortunately, with a build like this, we have to find those in order to really start. Because, I mean, we could start building up Moltres. That's what we're going to have to pretty much do at this point. And just do the Inferno... Not Inferno Dance, whatever the other attack is. But 70 damage for 3 energy is so bleh. With a lot of the Charizard builds, you at least have Growlithe and Arcanine to kind of fall back on. That's not to say I think, again, and then Infernape is a terrible deck or anything. I just think that its issues... every deck, when it comes down to it, is all about the pros versus cons. That really just determines how good or how worth it is worth using. And I don't think the pro or the cons completely outweigh the pros for Infernape, but when you compare it against Charizard, the cons are definitely much heavier for Infernape. As you can see with my hand here, I'm still just completely struggling to draw even a Monferno, let alone an Infernape here. So I'm going to have to kind of resort to just attacking with Moltres in order to get there. I don't know. It's a good thing my opponent's on an apparently very slow strategy too, because otherwise I think against a lot of decks I would have just lost by now. Don't worry, the other 2 games will see us playing against some better decks, but... I mean, Giratina's not, like, an awful idea. The ability is certainly quite interesting. The ability to retreat for free if you've got, any energy, not just psychic energy. But, you know, like the Moltres, it has an attack rate of 70 damage for 3 energy, which is just not spectacular at all. Okay, finally, here's a Monferno, jeez. These Stage 2 decks, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I've played stuff like Darkrai Magnezone recently, and although I haven't recorded it yet, I am pretty thoroughly into Darkrai Greninja as well, but... I mean, those decks, Magnezone and Greninja, you can just win without those, right? Off Darkrai alone. We're gonna try to win off Moltres alone here, but as you can see, it's really not that easy. And again, God forbid our opponent actually do something threatening here. Going for a Mythical Slab. Fail to find off of it. That's pretty good for us. Honestly, if you're going to be playing a lower to the ground psychic strategy like this, you might as well be playing Mismagia CX. That card is really cool. It's too bad that Dark Pokemon are so good. Yeah, our opponent's just going to actually concede here. Wow, I totally forgot they conceded at that point, but there we go. There's our first game. And again, we couldn't even really find Infernape there, so just had to kind of win off the back of our Moltres. But we'll definitely take it all the same. Alright, our next game is going to be against Dialga, so we've got the type advantage here. Definitely works in our favor. I don't know, I was thinking about it just now, and I'm like, what if we tried playing Growlithe and Arcanine in a deck like this? But again, the whole question that you then ask, or I then ask at that point, is like, well, why wouldn't you just play Charizard then? Because that's the thing, while Infernape might seem more aggressive on the surface, being a Stage 2 aggro Pokemon is kind of just an oxymoron, right? Because the Stage 2 takes so long to set up in terms of, you know, finding the cards and making sure that you have them. And even if you do have them, it still takes multiple turns, right? That doesn't always seem like a particularly aggressive way to play. It's like our opponent's using Dialga to set up Licky Licky here. I don't know how I feel about that. It's like, it feels a little win-more. Like, if you're going to set up a colorless strategy with with Dialga, yeah, you might as well just set up Yanmega. Well, especially because Yanmega... I mean, that's the other thing, too, about Infernape. Like, 140 is not bad, but so many other Pokemon can deal, like, comparable damage with such lower drawback. Like, look at Gyarados in general, right? Gyarados is a Stage 1 that has just so much fewer... Now, of course, it costs more energy, sure, but the time difference between a Stage 2 with 2 energy and a Stage 1 with 4 energy is really negligible, bordering on non-existent. Alright, we've got the Moltres set up with the Rocky Helmet, a couple of Chimchars in the bench, so again, we're just pretty much waiting for Monferno and Infernape at this point. Getting pretty unlucky to not land any heads there, but that's actually not that big of a deal. We could not land heads on any of the Inferno dances, right? Yeah, and still be able to set up Infernape in time. Okay, here our opponent's also on Regigigas. Is that like a thing? Because there is somebody else who was on Regigigas in our last video, our Weavile video as well. Alright, they also use Sabrina to force in Chimchar, which feels a little pointless. Because I can just attach Fire Energy for turn onto Chimchar and then retreat. Okay, we found an Infernape, so we're really just looking for Monferno at this point. That's also, of course, why we play 2 Pokemon Communication as well. I should have maybe kept this Moltres in hand for that reason, actually. Just to try to Communication for Monferno, rather. Alright, we at least got one this time. At least we got one. Gonna put that on one of my Chimchars here. Alright, next turn they can start setting up their stuff with the Metallic Turbo. Which is a little scary. Yeah, so they're just going for it now. Let's see if they set up... I think they set up on Lickitung here, but... No, it's on Regigigas. That's right. And so I think that attack deals 50 damage plus another 10 for every damage counter on Regigigas. Which is actually not really that bad in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, finding another Infernape here, so really, really hoping for that Pokemon communication, if not just top decking Monferno. Gonna continue to Inferno Dance with the Moltres. Again, if nothing else, we at least get one. I'm gonna put this on the other Moltres, I think, yeah. Just in case we need to start attacking with that again. These Stage 2 decks, where the focus is on the Stage 2, can be like this a lot of the time. I don't know. Let's see what they end up Metallic Turboing onto this time. If they finish setting up their Regigigas, or if they're going to try to go for the Lickitung. Looks like they're probably going to set up on the Lickitung because they're starting to put their energy for turn onto the Regigigas. But they haven't committed to actually playing a Licky yet. Yeah, they're putting on the Lickitung. Yeah, I was looking at the win rate for this deck too just a moment ago, and it's not ideal. What was the popularity rating again? Here it is. It's the 20th most popular deck with a 46.52% win rate. I think below 50% win rate is just not great. I would consider the most meta contenders, the biggest meta contenders, to be the ones that are 50% win rate or above. So that does not exactly bode well for Infernape. Although, to be fair, decks like Mewtwo EX and Pikachu EX are also below 50... oh, excuse me, 50% win rate right now. Sorry about that. So, in fact, I think Infernape's win rate is actually higher. It is, yeah, it is higher than both Pikachu and Mewtwo right now. I use the Limitless TCG, play.limitlesstcg.com site to reference that data, by the way. Which I don't think is surprising. Most people who are really into the competitive Pocket scene know about that. Alright, so we're going to go for the Regigigas attack here. Thankfully it only does 50 because we haven't damaged it, although now it is damaged from the Rocky Helmet. Yeah, they retreat out the Dialga to avoid a KO there, but we have Cyrus here to help with that. Alright, we did get Monferno last turn. Finally, we're going into the Infernape. Yeah, I'll just pay Moltres' full retreat cost here, I think. Yeah, that's definitely worth getting to KO with the Infernape. So this is a situation where we did get to one-shot. Not that, I think Regigigas is a pretty typical deck. Oh yeah, here I was debating if I wanted to use Cyrus and just take care of the Dialga now, but I was like, nah, I'll just take out the Regigigas and then all 4 of the Steel Energy that are attached to it. And then next turn I can use Cyrus. Well, that's the thing. Well, yeah, no, I can... Oh, but I don't have the ability to attack. Well, I do have the ability to attack. Okay, what am I saying? I don't have the ability to go into... I can't Moltres... Basically, I can't Cyrus and Dawn on the same turn, right? I can't Cyrus in the Dialga while also using Dawn to move the energy I would need to Moltres. I can do it for this Lickitung, which will be fine, but it won't be a win this turn. I mean, I guess to be fair, it'll be a win this turn for all intents and purposes, right? Because even if it's not taking the last point, this is taking out the last of their energies they've been building up. Our opponent now has 0 energy on board, and we have another Dawn in our hand, so we can just follow up. And yeah, they're just going to concede here anyway. So there you go. That's what it looks like when the deck does get going. Ideally, you can just, you know, Infernape to Flare Blitz turn after turn after turn until you win. But that's not always the most realistic thing, unfortunately. It's kind of like opening Exodia a little bit, or drawing Exodia, rather. Not necessarily opening, but drawing Exodia to get there. Okay, and then our final opponent here is going to be on an Exeggutor EX deck. They are playing some other of the new grass Pokemon. I think Shaman is in this deck, and Combee. Combee is the other one. They use Combee Find a Friend. Oh, and Roselia as well. I forgot about that. Alright, we do have the Chimchar here and the Monferno. That's pretty nice. Gonna go for the Professor's Research. Ideally, we'd find a Moltres. We got Pokemon Communication and Infernape. So I do have another Pokemon Communication in hand as well. Kind of debating if I want to use it on one of these to find Moltres here, but decided to just Rocky Helmet up the Chimchar before passing. Yeah, I think that's fine here. If we really can't find Moltres, we could think about using Pokemon Communication, but also in that kind of scenario, I think we'll probably draw another Pokemon to use it with anyway. Okay, so it was Caterpie that they find a friend with, and not... I thought it was Lacombe find a friend for some reason. They do have Shaman, I did remember that, right? Okay. Yeah, Combees find... No, Combees is Call for Family. So I always thought that was kind of weird, right? Combees is called Call for Family, but it can find any Pokemon. Caterpies is Find a Friend, but it only finds grass Pokemon. You'd think that would be the other way around, but oh well. Looks like they got a Rocky Helmet of their own on Roselia. We did draw Moltres, so that's pretty good for us. We're going to evolve the Chimchar into Monferno, putting a Fire Energy onto it, and then, of course, we're going to play out our Moltres too. And I'm just going to go for the attack here, because I can KO the Roselia. Like, yeah, I take 20 damage off the Rocky Helmet, but my opponent doesn't really have a way to threaten to KO my Monferno this turn, and then I can just evolve straight into Infernape, and then KO whatever they play next on the follow-up turn. Yeah, Rocky Helmet might be intended for Moltres, but as you can see here, it's a pretty good tool in general. Okay, there's the Execute from them. You know, there's almost a consideration to, like, almost a consideration to not even evolve, right? Because I can just KO the Caterpie anyway, but the Execute there is really scary, because Exeggutor could evolve and for 1 energy, one-shot the Monferno at this point. So, if my Monferno had, like, if it had, like, more than 40 HP left and it was relying on the coin flip, then I might be a little more inclined to try it, but... Okay, so we're actually going to start with Pokemon Communication on the Monferno. I guess just see what else we get, whether it's Chimchar or the other Moltres. It's the other Moltres. Yeah, I think... It's kind of a waste of energy, but I think we have to evolve into Infernape and Flare Blitz this Caterpie. Yeah, just because of the threat of going into Exeggutor. I'm mostly doing it for the HP more than anything else. And I can still retreat, go into Moltres, and then Moltres Inferno Dance. Like, yeah, that's a lot slower, but this is just so much safer. I think it's worth it. 160 damage to that poor little Caterpie. Such overkill. But again, I do find it necessary. Not all the time, but just in this scenario. Because sure enough, yep, here is the Exeggutor EX. That would have just KO'd Monferno. Going for the Tropical Swing. And only dealing 40. That's good. I mean, 40 is still a lot for 1 energy, but thankfully that's not 80. Alright, dealing 20 back. Doesn't really matter here, because we can one-shot Exeggutor anyway. And, yep, here I'm going to have to just retreat into the Moltres. We'll then go for the Inferno Dance. Oh, no, we're not. We're just going to put it onto the the Infernape directly. Decided not to high roll, I guess? Or did I think Leaf was... yeah, did I mix up Dawn? I mix up Dawn and Leaf all the time. I think I thought I had a Leaf in hand, so that next turn I could always just Leaf out the Moltres, attach energy for turn, and win. Thankfully our opponent conceded, but, like, I need to stop doing that. So, thanks for watching anyway. Thanks again for checking this out. This is Hexlex. I am signing off, hoping you have a fantastic day.